So we're recording now?
Yeah, we've been recording this whole time so I could watch the levels.
Good thing I didn't say anything too. That you could blackmail me with. But.
Hi, I'm Alex and I'm bored.
And I'm Jackson and I'm annoyed.
And welcome to the first ever episode of Bored and Annoyed, the podcast.
You might want to cut the podcast.
I probably will. Bored and Annoyed. So, we're going to be talking about Annihilation today.
Yeah. Well, what do you want to talk about? I don't even have your opinion on it yet, so.
Well, okay. I'm going to say I liked it.
Okay.
I walked out and my head hurt. Like, I don't know if I was fully understanding it.
Yeah, so you saw a movie that actually made you use your brain.
Right. And it didn't agree with me.
Nah, that'll happen.
It was good. Like, I was keeping up, and I was like, thematically, I'm like, I know what you're getting at. I know what you're trying to say here. And then the ending happens.
Well, what was the theme? I mean, for a while, I thought it was just like a metaphor on cancer. And then it kind of turned into she couldn't get out of her own way. And nobody can get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And everybody's just a self-destructive.
Yeah. I think it was like the whole idea is like everyone is self-destructive.
Which is to an extent true, but
like it's so weird because it's like, what were the things? I don't know. Okay, so it's hard to come up with your thoughts on this thing because it's so weird. But like, it has to be about self-destruction.
Well, there was the whole thing about, I mean, she's having this affair and he, through his depression, is signing up for this job that, he's not going to live through. Right. At the end, I mean, spoilers, but at the end you find she's just, essentially trying to kill herself and get in her own way. And it's bizarre. But then there's the whole cancer thing as well, which is, obviously that's, the antithesis of what's going on in the movie. The what's it called? The
shimmer.
The shimmer is basically turning everything into tumors on the earth. There's kind of this freaky mutation thing going on, and the movie starts out with her talking about, tumors. That's the first scene in the movie, I think. I could be wrong.
But. Yeah, it's the first scene where she's talking about the cells splitting and reproducing, and they're exactly identical. And
even that, cancer is basically your cells turning against you. So it's kind of a,
Right. But
your own worst enemy is yourself, is kind of the whole...
Right. Well, like the idea is, I think the idea was like we're all self-destructive, but it's not that, it's you're destroying your old self because everything mutates you. You're not like that the one woman who gets eaten by a bear. She says, everything feels like it's a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Signifying that you've changed throughout your life.
And without delving too deep into the movie, the individual scenes throughout the movie are all awesome. Yes. In my opinion.
Yeah.
That scene, the bear scene, when the bear comes back and attacks everybody.
Right.
That was one of the most interestingly creepy things I can remember from a movie in a long time.
I love the look of him too.
Oh yeah.
Like the whole, like he's got like the skull like the head is partially missing.
Yeah, she, it could be a female bear,
yeah, right? Making wild assumptions here.
But so there's a scene in the movie, and if you've seen it, you know what we're talking about, where, in the distance, this woman kind of gets pissed at the crew and ties them all up or whatever. She's pissed because she thinks the main character killed one of the other characters.
Natalie Portman.
Yep, and she hears the girl from earlier in the movie who we thought we saw snatched by a bear, and then we saw dead laying there. So in our heads, there's no question she's dead. There's a scene where all of a sudden you hear her screaming help in the background, and the one girl, oh, she's alive, and she runs to save her.
Right.
All of a sudden this giant bear monster shows up, and at first it's kind of like discombobulating because you're sitting there like, what the hell's going on? Like you can hear you can hear the girl screaming help in the background while also seeing the monster kind of open its mouth and roar, so to speak. But then you quickly realize that the voice is inside of this monster, and this, shimmer area, for some reason, all these creatures are basically taking on the form of the people and items within them. I mean, it's a hard movie to talk about because it sounds so bizarre.
Well, and then you had the alligator too, and the alligator
with the shark
right? It was like it was crossbred with a shark, and it's like this weird. Everything is mutating in the shimmer.
Yep, the plants, everything.
Right. And not only are they mutating, but like there's a point where Natalie Portman says something like, "This plant, they all share the same roots, but there are huge divergences in like one flower to the next coming off of the same roots."
Right.
So it's like they're different species, but they're all connected. It's
taking on the makeup of everything around it is kind of the gist. And, I've heard of tumors that have like teeth in them.
Right, yeah.
And
yeah, because the genetic makeup gets all twisted
but to
around.
Your point, at the end, is that really what it, I mean, is it a, metaphor for cancer? What the hell is it? I mean, it's just bizarre. So,
well, I think the interesting thing, you look thematically at it and you just look at this crazy idea that the woman who was attacked by a bear earlier in the movie, the one that they, she's dragged off and they all freak out and they're hearing her voice coming out of the bear. And then it's the idea that part of you lives on in the thing that killed you.
Yeah, that was cool though too. Because then there's another scene where another character basically says, if I'm gonna die, I don't want to die like that and have a piece of me living on just being terrified. So,
right, and that's Tessa Thompson from Thor Ragnarok and Creed.
Yep, and she was really good. And once again, I felt like everyone in the movie was better than Natalie Portman.
I didn't mind that. I thought she did fine. I thought she was pretty good.
I mean, she was boring, but
I think that's I forget the director's name, but I think that's just kind of his style. He likes to have characters be very aloof.
I don't know. I mean, have you seen Ex Machina or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way about anyone in that movie. Even the nerdy guy who wins the contest, who comes to the compound, who,
Right. I mean, well, I feel like he has a certain way of directing his actors, which is why the lesbian in the movie, I kind of liked her because she had a very different flavor in the way that she delivered lines. Everybody's very sort of downtrodden in a lot of his movies. Everybody's very subtle.
That's true.
Very nuanced.
That's true.
I mean, they all feel real, but nobody's like freaking out and singing like a disco song. That's just not happening.
It's fun. I mean, she holds her own in everything she's in. I just think she's. I mean, I would say she's kind of boring, is my opinion.
Right.
And it's not, I mean, you could blame George Lucas 20 years ago, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you see her in V for Vendetta, and she's pretty great. She's pretty great there.
It's true. She's outshined by her co-star in that, too.
And there were scenes in this where I was like, I buy it. I buy it completely.
Yeah.
Like when she's... Okay, so I love how we're like explaining the movie while giving spoilers.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
the
pretty-
whole thing, you can't talk about this movie without spoilers, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, you can't. No, there's no way. Well, I mean, I just told the guy that it's like crazy stuff starts happening and it's mutating everybody. That was all I could say.
Well, it's funny that it's about mutation, because it's like if you mutated like Ex Machina, Alien, and The Thing or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like kind of a monster movie, but it's not. It's kind of got this weird, like, oh, you know, one of those endings where it's like, oh shit, what the hell did I just see?
Right.
Which
Yeah.
is not what those movies are like at all.
The last 10 minutes takes anything that you were expecting for the movie and just like breaks open your head and shits in your brain, and you're like, I don't
True.
know.
So, okay, so I'm getting from you that you weren't a big fan of the ending.
No. I liked the ending, like,
But you don't-
a
you
lot.
just don't
but
know why you liked it?
I don't understand it, because that's when the whole movie becomes an enigma to me.
But does it matter, though? I mean, like, because I was sitting there, like, zoning in on the screen during
Right,
that whole
right.
scene at the end where
Right.
there's, like, the alien thing, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit, well, I mean, like, on my way home, talking to the girlfriend about it, I was just like, you know, does it really matter? Like, do we know that the real one came out of there? Do we know... You know, because,
Right.
okay, we saw, like, the metal whatever on Natalie Portman, but at that point, like, you know, God, this just sounds so convoluted. At that point, the DNA's been sucked out of her, and we saw it split, and then
And
they
it's
kind of
not-
were... one of them was kind of holding the other one back, which is kind
Right.
of symbolic of, you know, getting in her own way and
Right.
being her own worst enemy and all this shit.
Well, like, the weird thing is like the only way that it was willing to let her go was if she looked like she was going to commit suicide, which is weird, and I don't quite get it, because I think the idea, I mean, I feel like my brain is just on the tip of understanding this movie.
No, it'll be on Netflix in like 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
I plan on watching it again.
I feel bad for it's Paramount who did that. They sold like the rights to Netflix.
That's what I heard, and the director was not happy about it. Correct?
right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, okay. So, all right. So I'm just gonna go down the rabbit hole here. So if it's about self-destruction, and it's not just about self-destruction, I think it's about like the psychological state of self-destruction.
Okay.
Because I think, like, so she cheats on him, which makes him go into the... Because, I mean, you look at it, it's so crazy. It's weird, though, because I feel like the shimmer is like a metaphor for something, too. Because it's this big, beautiful thing that just keeps growing and growing. But inside, it's changing and killing everything inside it. I feel like that's got to be a metaphor.
Is it killing anything, though?
Well,
I mean,
when it goes away, those people are dead.
well, they're not, though, right? I mean, they still exist in some form or another.
Right. They've totally been transformed, but they're no longer alive. I mean, they're not, they're in the ground now. Like, because I believe at the end, I think there was a point where they showed like crosses in the ground, and I thought that the crosses in the ground were to signify where by the way, there are people who there are plants that form in the shape of people, which is crazy.
Fucking awesome.
That was so awesome.
That scene was a little weird, though. Can we talk about that quick detour?
Yeah.
When she walks off, you watched her turn into one of these things.
That was weird.
And, there's a lot of movies like this where I feel like it probably doesn't matter, but I can't help but be bothered when something like that like I'm sitting there like, okay, well, so she just walked away and decided to be a plant, and that's how this now are the plants people that became plants, or because I wasn't under that impression when we were first introduced to the plants. I thought they just kind of took on human form because they were around,
right? Because they had the human DNA from the people who were there, and then they just ended up mixing when the plant grew, it mixed with the DNA of the people that were already there. But why would it be it's like standing in weird positions and very specific positions. So that was really weird.
Yeah, that's correct. It was, the whole thing was weird.
But I thought of it like it was kind of weird because she was the one who changed the fastest, bar none. And it's really weird because it's like, is that the idea that if you give in to your own self-destruction, you will be changed, but you can't go back?
These are the things that the movie doesn't answer. It doesn't.
Right. I mean,
it doesn't try to.
It doesn't.
You kind of have to just accept it, which is, it can be annoying, but I mean,
I feel like the movie is like poetry, the movie, because it's like you can interpret it a million different ways. Well, not really a million different. It's pretty specific how you can interpret it, but it doesn't offer up the definitive, this is the thesis
which
statement.
Is, I like that.
Right.
You know, and I was thinking after I saw it that I'm beginning to discover that these are my favorite kind of movies to see, because it's like you walk out and you're like, what the hell did I just watch? And there's something that's gratifying about that.
Right.
I think he's kind of made two. I mean, Ex Machina is a little easier, but what was fun about that movie was I kind of failed the test, because even after the movie was over, I still felt bad for the AI.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's the kind of, I mean, the whole movie, you were taking the test in the movie,
right,
unknowingly.
Yep.
And I like these sci-fi movies that kind of make you dig a little deeper, I guess. You know, it's refreshing to see something that has some balls.
This movie is asking like crazy questions.
Right.
Because I was like, is it just as broad as being a metaphor for life? Because you're constantly changing throughout your life and you're not the same. Like technically, like, what is it? Like all of your cells are dead and replaced every 7 years. So you're technically a completely new person every 7 years.
That's really like scary to even
think about. It's really weird. Well, and it's like, you know, like they're, you know, they talk about like people in depression or something, like your brain develops certain neural pathways, and that's why it's hard for people with depression or addiction to get out of them, because it's your brain just is naturally going on that cycle.
Right.
And you have to create a new pathway, a new thing, and so then it's like you've become a different person, and you were a different person when you were addicted to something because your brain functioned in a completely different way.
It's true.
So it's like, I think that's what this is trying to say, and I think it's also trying to say that like when you change people around you too, because he changed because of her actions. And then, in turn, she changed because of his actions.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's too much shit to talk about in the movie, having only seen it once.
Right.
That's part of the problem, too.
Oh, did you notice that Natalie Portman all of a sudden developed a tattoo? And it was the lesbian's tattoo?
No, I did not notice that. And I also heard that in the scene where she's being questioned by the doctor guy or whatever, that's kind of, you know, chopped in different parts of the movie, that there's water moving on her glasses, like all, you know, tweaking out on her glasses. I can't confirm or deny that because I haven't seen it again. But basically, there's signs that something isn't right the whole time.
Really?
And you know, like the ending, back to the ending, like I'm not convinced that it even, like, if it, you know, because I know the big question you're supposed to have, did the real her come out?
Right.
I'm not convinced that it even matters.
Well, I think the whole point is that since you're constantly changing through life anyways, it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, and you've got, so there's a scene there too, she comes in, she asks him, like, you're not really, I forget the character's, David or something, I don't know what his name is. But
Kane. I think Kane. Yeah.
Which is the name of the guy who births the alien in the original Alien movie too. Which is interesting.
That is pretty interesting. And then I was thinking Cain and Abel too, but I don't even know enough about the
Right,
Bible
so,
to make that.
So she says to him, like, "You're not really Cain, are you?" Or whatever.
Yeah.
And he says, "I don't know." And the one who killed himself didn't know.
The great thing about that, too, is did you notice that Oscar Isaac, when he was killing himself and lighting that flare, he had a new accent? He had a southern accent?
No.
Yeah.
So it might not have... the real one, quote unquote...
Well, the
or
one...
is there a real one, or is it just split totally...
Well, what I thought it was that he went with his crew, and she's got this tattoo that shows up on her, and that's part of her crew.
Okay.
And I was thinking maybe one of his guys had an accent, and that's how, when he got to the end, he absorbed the accent from the guy.
That could be true. But wouldn't it be interesting to see his southern partner who he would have gotten the accent from?
Right. Well, and I feel like the movie is it's like smart enough to be like, well, if we lay that in for you, you're going to piece it together, and we want to make it a little bit more ambiguous.
Shit, I would have missed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be easier to watch when you're just calmly watching it and you're not sitting there trying to figure everything out.
Right. Well, yeah, that was the great thing about watching the movie. It was like this puzzle. Like, you're not used to, like, movies are not puzzles.
Right.
And it's like, I love when people are like, oh, Inception is such a deep movie. I'm like, no, this, like,
right,
that's
exactly.
That's like a children's book compared to this.
No, it's true. I mean, it's funny. I think I mentioned you recently. I just rewatched that and I realized basically the entire movie of Inception kind of treats the viewer like it's a moron. Every
Right.
scene is exposition and explaining how all of this works.
Right.
Whereas it's always more interesting to me to kind of just be dumped into something and figure it out as you go. A couple movies I've seen more recently that are kind of like that too are Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal. Mm-hmm. And then A Ghost Story is kind of like that. I mean, that one's not, you're not sitting there trying to piece it all together, but they're also not explaining every little thing. There's maybe one scene of like exposition where they kind of treat you like you're a dumbass. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's just a weird movie that you have to actively watch.
I haven't seen it.
Well, it's weird because you have to actively watch it because you feel like you might miss something. But I mean, it's admittedly a boring movie. I mean, you're in one house pretty much the entire movie,
right? And
your main character is a guy with a sheet over him. I mean, that's the movie, and it sounds terrible. And most, just
that should
like
be
this,
on the poster.
Just like this, most people probably a lot of people probably walk out of it and they say, "Oh, that was dumb," or "That was terrible. Nothing happened." Because right away after this movie, I was at the pisser, and the guy next to me is telling his buddy, "That movie sucked," and it's like, what? Ugh, I don't know. I fear for the human race sometimes.
The girl was on board with the movie until the very end.
Okay.
And that's when she was like, "No, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to watch this anymore." And she became vehemently annoyed at the movie.
At the
very end, like what, especially when the alien is taking Natalie Portman and shoving her and suffocating her against the door. That's when she was like, "I'm done. I'm out." And she just...
Well, the alien's not trying to hurt her, right? It's mimicking her.
Yeah. And so that's kind of why I feel...
So did it bother her, like, this movie sucks? Or did it achieve its goal of, like, this is making me really uncomfortable?
It made her... Yeah. I mean, it achieved its goal, but I think by achieving its goal, she stopped liking it.
It might have turned people off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's what will happen with most people with this movie, is if you can just be on board with going on a funky ride and being a little disturbed, you'll like it. But if you don't want to think, don't see this movie.
There are going to be people that like it up until the end.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, and there are going to be people who... the reason the movie is so interesting... I mean, there's great stuff like, the bear and all that stuff sprinkled throughout, like the guy who explodes in the pool.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing. There's great stuff throughout it. But, like, if you're not looking at it like it is a giant metaphor, then the movie sort of loses a little bit of its edge, because part of the fun for me was trying to figure out what the movie was trying to say.
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second. What role do trailers have in ruining movies for people? Because they saw this trailer and thought, okay, this is like a sci-fi action
That was exactly
thriller thing going
That was
on.
exactly what the lady said.
And at what point do critics ruin it? Because I would have liked to have gone into this thinking it was going to be that and being
Right.
pleasantly surprised, but I can't stay off my damn phone.
Right.
So as soon as like everybody's tweeting about how amazing this is, Ryan Johnson, like, see it on the biggest screen, I'm still reeling. And
Right,
it's like, I
right.
just want to say fuck you to Ryan Johnson.
But that's totally unrelated almost.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. But my point is, you're seeing all this and you're just going, oh wow, well, okay, now I'm ready for this, and I know that it's gotta be this,
Right.
weird. And I should have assumed it was going to be weird just because of the last movie he made, but it looked like an action movie, and I don't know. How did it do? Do you know how it did over the weekend?
It is not doing great. I think
well-
it did something like, I want to say it did something like 14 million.
See, no bullshit, no way. Really?
Something like that.
That's it?
Yeah.
So we won't get cool movies like this for much longer.
No,
if that's
well,
what
I
keeps
mean,
happening.
it's kind of they there's a great guy. I don't know if you read Forbes at all, but there's Scott Mendelson.
Okay, I've seen some of his stuff. He
does-
breaks down every weekend, like
it's-
the budget and yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, he is like, yeah.
Well, it's just
But he's breaking it down in comparison to sort of similar movies like Arrival. I think he compared it to Ex Machina too.
Ex Machina was. Wasn't it like mostly indie theaters though? Like, I think I saw that one at Sundance, like Under the Skin. I saw at Sundance too,
Oh,
which
right,
was
right.
another weird one that I enjoyed, but didn't like as much as this one. But yeah, that's depressing because I've got to imagine they spent about $100 million on it just from looking at it. I don't think it's
actually 40.
no.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it reminds me of like District 9 in that regard, because District 9 only cost 30 million.
Could be the best sci-fi movie of the last 15 years, District 9, I
Right.
would say.
Very good.
So
Well,
look,
yeah.
I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of money to make a good movie.
Yeah.
Whereas you can throw 300 million at the screen and make a huge pile of shit. So
We're looking at you, Justice League. 11 million is what
that's
it made.
horrible.
Yeah.
The theater I was in was full, but it was funny because people were like getting up to go to the bathroom constantly. It was like noisy in there. I do think that a lot of people, they just don't want to go sit in a theater and watch a movie where they have to use their brain. I mean,
No.
that's the problem, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. Well, I've been seeing a lot talking about how theaters and movies in general are going more and more towards the younger audience, going towards adolescent sort of entertainment, and TV is where adult entertainment is. It's because you're getting a lot of these, adolescent kind of, farts and stoner jokes, comedies, and you're getting, the Transformers and the Marvel movies, which, they're fine. It's just they don't tend to make you think a whole lot.
No, not at all.
I mean, so I don't know. But yeah, it was 11 million, but
I would argue with like the superhero movies a lot of time. Like for me, I know we have a little bit of different taste. That's about the most I know about you is your taste in superhero movies. But for me, I gravitate more towards the simple superhero movies. Like, Wonder Woman, it's not political. It's just kind of a, like, everyone can relate to this.
it's the standard hero's journey.
Right. Whereas Black Panther, which was really good, is a little more nuanced with what it's trying to say. It's got a little bit more of a, a coordinated message involved in it. I
Right.
mean, it tackles specific things. It's not just about, well, man is good. You know
right,
what I mean?
Right.
Like, there are shitty people, and there's, shitty people that take advantage of the fact that there are shitty people.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess.
Yep.
But with something like this, I feel completely like I don't want to turn my brain off and just, go through the standard hero's journey all the time.
No, this is like the complete other side of the spectrum where you're going into experimental ideas and you're really testing your own brain. This is the stuff where, they always talk about like film and TV and all that stuff. It's like it's passive entertainment. You're just sitting there, you're watching it.
Turn your brain off.
Yeah, turn your brain off to like, I'm watching Friends sort of thing. It's like that. But this is not. This is a puzzle. This is meant to make you think. And that's a good thing. We should be celebrating these things. We should be getting more of them.
But it's not. It's the same reason why Call of Duty is the highest selling video game franchise. Well, I haven't played Dark Souls, for instance. I hear that one's actually makes you work.
Right. Yeah. Well,
what I'm saying?
I hear you can get one shot at all the time.
Right. Exactly. But you probably have to think of strategies and do different shit to get through the game. Whereas with Call of Duty, I can just run around. If I hide for a second behind cover, I get full health again, and I can just turn my brain off and have fun.
You're right.
Which is what your more casual moviegoers want to do, which is why it's probably intelligent that they only spent $40 million on this. How much did they make from Netflix on selling it to them? I got to imagine it's already made money.
I was actually going to look that up right now. Apparently, they made most of their budget back.
Just from selling it to Netflix.
From selling it to Netflix.
So it was a smart move as far as they're concerned, right?
I'm sort of wondering, because I think that the Cloverfield Paradox was part of like some sort of bundle deal or something that they did with them.
Is that Paramount as well?
That was Paramount as well. So I'm wondering if they kind of got like a 2-for-1
sort
of thing.
So Paramount makes a movie like this, and it does, what, would you say 12 million?
11.
And what is the total gross of their Transformers franchise?
Well
over $1 billion, right?
Total
gross? 2 billion? 3 billion?
It's probably somewhere in between 3 and 4.
Just from because the last one I heard crapped out.
Yeah, I think that one crapped out around 600 or something like that mil.
And note, I'm a Transformers fan. I even find enjoyment in the fourth one. Hated the fifth one, but I can admit that's a sure sign of humanity, eating itself right there.
Right.
You're ruining good stuff isn't going to be made because you need crap like that.
Right.
I mean, right?
Well, it's all about balance because you're trying to serve different audiences, but the problem is that you're alienating off audiences by not catering. Like this movie, I feel like the advertising almost sabotaged it. Because
it just looked like another...
It just looked like another action sci-fi thing. Ooh, it's a sci-fi horror thing. Again, it's going to be like Alien or whatever.
Oh, God. Well, and they're ruining that stuff, too, because you come out with this... And I don't know what critics are smoking on the Alien... what was the...
Covenant?
Covenant. Was that the last one?
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I mean, that's not a... Nobody uses any logic in the movie. It's a piece of shit. What do they like about that movie?
And I'd say probably the greatest thing, the best thing that I can say about that movie is that...
David was awesome. Michael Fassbender.
Right. I would say the best thing is, though, I can completely forget almost all of what happened. Because it's just that... It's that stupid.
My main memory from that movie is a terrible one. It's when Dr. Manhattan, that actor.
Oh, right.
Yeah, what the hell's his name? But anyways, Michael Crudup, I believe. Okay,
the Flash's dad.
Yeah. So the Flash's dad, what's this? And, he's looking at these eggs or whatever, and Michael Shannon's just like, they're safe. Look in one. They're safe.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because he already knows that David's been messing with shit.
He knows that, and David got all pissed off when Crudup killed the other alien.
Yeah.
But then he's just like, oh, sure.
Yeah, just stick your face in it.
I think Ridley Scott has lost his mind. Honestly. I don't know.
I find it... I can't remember exactly what Ridley Scott said about all these superhero movies, but he did the sort of standard director thing, which is like, oh, they're ruining Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, no, stupid movies like Covenant are ruining Hollywood.
Right. Well, okay. So you make a really stupid movie where nobody makes any sense to me, and then the last one I saw was that Getty one, All the Money in the World he did, and I mean it's not stupid, but it's boring. I mean, it's not good.
Well, and then
Or it's
before
good,
that,
but it's not like. Sure, you can make a paint-by-numbers dramatic movie. Like I would say another example would be like Hacksaw Ridge, because to me that was a letdown, even though it was a good movie, because I'm thinking, oh, Mel Gibson made this. It's going to be,
Right.
you know, it's going to have some style to it, whatever. To me, it was just like boring.
right.
Not bad, but boring.
I kind of feel like I'm failing at my genre movies thing, and then going and doing a standard drama is like what you do when you're failing.
Right,
You're like,
'cause-
oh man, I've fucked up so much. I'm going to go back to basics. I'm going to do a basic drama. But the problem is that if you're probably fucking up on your fundamentals. And that's probably what it is. Like it's not the fact that it's a genre movie and that, you know, horror is kind of hard to do well. It's the fact that you
Which it
don't
is.
understand how
people
humans...
don't give it enough credit for how difficult horror is to do.
It's
I mean, that scene in the move back to Annihilation, that scene with that bear with the voice coming out of it was amazing. I mean, you don't see that there's nothing that makes you feel that way in any other genre of movie, in my opinion.
I was
mean,
having like flashbacks to you don't watch anime, but Full Metal Alchemist. There's a thing where they can combine humans and animals, and it's like this truly horrific thing. And I'm like, this is why Full Metal Alchemist will never be done in live action, except Japan did it, and it was terrible.
Terrible. Well,
but I mean, it was just...
they keep making these anime movies that I think look good, and then I go see them and they're piles of shit.
Yeah.
So isn't there another one coming out with who did it?
Alita Battle Angel. I think
James
that's...
Cameron produced it?
He's the producer. Guy who did Sin City, I think, is the director. Rodriguez.
Yeah, and I looked at my girlfriend and I said, "Oh, that looks good," and she was like, "I don't know." And I'm sitting there like, she's probably right.
Yeah. Well, my thing is like, you know, I love that they're trying to do the live action anime eyes, but goddamn, is it so distracting? I see that in the trailer. I'm like, I can't watch that for 120 minutes. Like that looks fake as fuck.
Isn't she like a robot though?
She's a robot, which I'm like, okay, you get a semi pass on that, but you got to still make it look real. Like it doesn't. She looks like a CGI person. Her eyes don't look like real eyes. They got that. They got that like dead eye.
They
thing
can
that we
do
had.
CGI everything else but humans. I think the best looking human I've seen in CG, and I don't even know how they did it, so I don't know if this is a good example, but was Blade Runner 2049. What's her name?
Oh right, yeah,
Sean Young.
yep.
And that looked amazing, but I have no clue. Like, to me,
They're actually getting really good at de-aging people, though. Like Downey Jr.
in
Civil War, that
right.
was amazing.
yeah, they can. Yeah, that's a good point. I just the
I
one
think-
that disgusts me was Tarkin in.
Oh yeah,
Rogue One.
that was horrendous. And then
Well, then you talk
Leia
to people,
at the end.
Then you talk to people who didn't like. I have a buddy who I play games with online who, like, I mentioned that and he didn't even notice, and it's like, what the.
He's not moving like a real person.
Right.
Like,
It's just
it's
something. The eyes are empty.
The eyes are empty, which is weird because like we were slowly getting away from the dead eyes of like that was like early 2000s, early 2010s. Problem with CGI people was they all had the dead eyes.
Right.
And then recently they've been doing a really good job of as of like the last few years, and now we're back to it. And the big one that gets me though is anytime he moved his mouth, I was like, God, that looks so bad. Because the creases don't move right. The chin doesn't quite move right. But the problem with him is like he was dead.
He was dead. Right.
You know, that's why these de-aging ones go better, because they've got the real actor and all they've got to do is probably bring in like a body double, do the whole face marker thing, and then...
Well, there's just something about humans. I mean, the Apes movies look, to me, it's like almost perfect. I can't,
Right.
but when there's a human, it's a whole different ball game. It's like there's a scientific reason for why we can't just accept looking at a human's face and eyes.
It's the uncanny valley.
Yeah, it's just you know.
It's why when you watch cartoons, people like to have the more exaggerated characters in cartoons, because especially the CGI ones like Minions or whatever.
Right.
Because they like that. The second that you get more into, what was it, Final Fantasy, that one.
Yeah, God, that's a callback. I remember that movie.
That movie was like, that was shunned by the masses. It did not do very well.
I'm a big Beowulf fan.
I liked Beowulf.
Right. And that was one where, I mean, watching it now, it doesn't look as good, but I was pretty blown away when I saw it, and I don't see any reason. I don't feel disgusted with what I'm looking at when I see it now.
When I saw it in 3D.
And it was amazing.
Yeah. And it's really, because I think it's because it is CGI. I think they have an easier time, because those are real things in the computer. They can give, they can't give them real textures, but they can separate things a little bit more.
Right.
I think it's much harder when we've got our actor in focus, and then we've got the background, which is a little out of focus. All of a sudden it just becomes two things.
Yeah, that's a problem. But
a
little bit of a tangent.
Yeah, huge tangent. That's all right. Oh man. Yeah, not doing well at the box office though. I think they're projecting like it will be lucky if it gets to 40 million in the U.S.
Well, it's going to be on Netflix in 2 weeks, so
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it just doesn't matter, because people are gonna watch it there, and it doesn't matter because it's already made its money back.
Well, it does matter though to me, because it's like, God, would I love to see like 200 million spent on a movie like that actually has a brain. I mean, it's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, Blade Runner 2049, I'm assuming, had a big budget.
It had a huge
and it lost
budget.
Money.
It lost. Yeah.
So there's an maybe don't make your movie 3.5 to 12 hours long like that movie felt like it was.
That's a really tough thing too, because it's like, yeah, if you make it shorter, you can get more show times, get more money, but at the same time, like, I'm watching Blade Runner, I'm like, yeah, you could cut a little bit of this. Well, okay, you could cut a lot.
You could just cut, like, I know they're going for a mood, and you know, they're trying to make it feel like the original, where it's kind of this slow burn, like, but every shot is held for like 2 seconds longer than it needs to be.
It's really bad when he shows up in the casino
and walks around for what feels like 47 minutes.
Yeah, that was atrocious.
And you've already seen Harrison Ford in the trailer, so all of the like anticipation is gone.
This is where like the whole trailer thing and the whole marketing thing ruins movies.
Right, it's true. But they probably got a few more asses in their seats in the theater because Harrison Ford's going to be in it.
Yep. Well, the thing is like they should not have used the shot where he comes out of the dark, literally his first appearance. Why would you use it? Put him somewhere else where the background is a little bit more ambiguous.
True, it's like the whole movie though. I mean, think of a scene in that movie.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because everywhere
has its own feel and lighting, and
I mean, it's a good movie from a lot of standpoints. It is just a little too slow.
It's good though. I liked it more the second time I watched it.
I still haven't seen it a second time. Bear like smashing that one chick's like entire lower jaw off.
That was awesome.
That was amazing. I was shocked.
Well, the movie was awesome. I mean,
there are so many diatribes in this podcast right now.
Well, cut it.
just cut like 75% of it.
Yeah, just cut 75% of it. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say aside from, if we're going to go into other topics. Do you watch The Walking Dead?
No.
Don't.
But just describe it to me, because I want to hear. So, okay, this is Bored and Annoyed, and this is the Bored and Annoyed area. You can't come up with anything more boring or more annoying than the hour and 23 minutes
I don't know how much of it was commercials.
So
it felt like 3 hours.
So
was on last night.
Let's just treat this like it's like Jackson's story hour.
My review of this episode.
Yeah. I want to hear, like, I want to get a plot summary and all of it.
Here's the bad. The bad sign is one of the main characters, and you're never gonna watch. I'm just gonna spoil it for you.
That's cool
because it's fucking terrible.
I just hear
you
that
shouldn't see it.
I hear that they just keep on showing up at towns and then they have to leave because people don't get along.
Okay.
And then zombies show up.
So the end of the last. Okay, that's the other thing. They split these. A season is 2 seasons.
Right.
A season is like 8 to 10 episodes. Or no, half of a season is 8 to 10 episodes. So you have 8 to 10 episodes, and then they go on break for a while.
Right.
So at the end of the first half of this season, Carl, who is the main character's son, who is also a main character. I mean, one of the most important characters on the show.
He's like the sheriff dude, right?
Day one. No, Carl's the sheriff dude's son.
Oh.
Okay. So Carl, I mean, we met him. It's one of those things where it's freaky when you go back and see an old episode because it's like the kid looks like he's like 15 years older than when you started watching the show.
Okay.
Because he was there from day one.
Okay.
So the end of the big reveal, the big cliffhanger was that he got bit.
Oh, shit.
So he got bit. Right at the end, you found out, like, fade to black. Carl's bit, fade to black. Tune in the next, month or whatever it was.
Okay.
So the episode starts, and the first thing I said out loud was, oh, shit. I forgot Carl got bit, which is a bad sign in and of itself because I just don't give a shit anymore. You're trying to, like, the entire... Okay, so this is like an hour and 23 minutes. You had some action sprinkled in there with some other characters. It's just... Every gunfight looks like bullshit. Like, just people... You don't see anyone aiming at anyone. It's just people being hit by bullets.
Oh, God.
And then
so
they
like...
show the person, like, spray... Like, Carol is a character. She's like a middle-aged woman, menopausal woman. And she... is spraying this machine gun, and it's like, you fucking clearly aren't aiming this at anything. And she's hitting shit.
So it's like
fine.
Expendables 3?
Yeah, but I never saw any of those, actually.
Good on you.
See them or don't see them?
Definitely don't see. Okay, the first one's fine.
I hate Jason Statham. He's in those, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay, I'll try and avoid those then. But anyway, so there's that juxtaposed with Carl is dying. Because he got bit. So this whole episode is going to be about him dying. And they drag it out for the entire episode. And it's him just mopily, telling everyone, I had to do the right thing. And there's this theme going on in the show where it's like, we can't be like them. So basically, to your earlier point of what the show is. They show up somewhere. They meet some good people. They show up, they start, everything's going well. Then the bad guys, the, post-apocalyptic bad guys show up. Always have more shit than them. Everybody's a piece of shit, apparently, in the world.
Right.
And we can't be like them. And, the main character, why can't I think of his goddamn name? But anyways, the main character, played by Andrew Lincoln, I can think of the actor's name, but not the character. He basically... is constantly going through these mood swings where it's like he's starting to lose it. You know what I mean? and then you'll have like a 3-episode little arc where he's back. This is my
Oh, great!
Yeah, and they've done this so many times.
So they do the whole contrived. He's losing his mind just so he can go away for a while,
right.
And then
So Carl's message, like basically, Carl got bit. Carl and his dad ran into this guy at a gas station who was trying to find some water and food or whatever. And Carl was, I want to help this guy. Let's take him back. Mm-hmm. His dad was like, no, you can't trust people in this world, Carl. And basically he went against his dad's wishes and went and found this guy later, and this is when he got bit. So it becomes this big, we can't be like them and we need to be inviting and people need us and whatever. And Rick is the dad's name, by the way.
Okay.
It's great. So we get like
Carl.
We get a scene of Carl talking, probably, I would say 30 minutes of the episode, give or take, felt like an hour, was just Carl like
saying his goodbyes.
Saying his goodbyes, but saying the same shit. It would have been way more impactful to just fucking kill him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, and that's another problem with the show is because when the show starts, I like shows where like Game of Thrones, even I like 24 was one of my favorite shows, and that was one of these this way. It was, and nobody's safe. Outside of Jack Bauer, nobody's safe in 24. I feel like anyone could die here.
Right.
That's interesting.
Right.
The Walking Dead started that way, and then it became, because holy shit, who could go next? But now it's become, I can't think of a fucking character on the show, if they were to die, that I would care.
Wow. And
this is like one of the biggest shows ever, I would assume.
They are losing ratings, from what I hear.
But
like they're bleeding ratings at this point.
But it was like a revolutionary show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it was bigger than Game of Thrones for a while. I mean, it was like the highest rated one on cable for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it still is.
And like they drag shit out and they try to be all artsy with it. There's close-up shots to music of like face, the close-up shots of the different characters like fading in and out to some like country music playing.
Some twangy.
Somber.
I love it. Okay.
What's gonna happen? Like the world is just pile of shit and whatever, and it's fucking terrible. There's this group that got introduced to the show last season that they speak like Yoda or something.
Not Negan and
that's Negan. Okay. That's a whole other problem because he was a great like 3-episode character that now has been in the show for 20 episodes.
Oh jeez.
But there's this crew of like they live in like a trash compound, like a landfill type area, and they speak like this different dialect. How long does a new dialect take to take form?
They were just the hobos that happened to live there anyways.
But they like it's like a different language, and it's like Jesus.
That
Christ,
doesn't happen.
This fucking show is retarded. It's retarded. Every time you have a character that should do something, they don't do it. Mm-hmm. Nobody can fucking shoot straight. It's like everybody's a goddamn stormtrooper. There have been multiple cases where you're just sitting there and you're just like, well, why the fuck didn't they just do this? You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, and I know why, because then you wouldn't have a show.
Exactly. But that's lazy writing, because if the writing enables that you wouldn't have a show otherwise, that's bad writing. Because it should be, this is the situation they are in. How are they going to get out of it? And when you have to take away the bullshit options. You can't have them do the bullshit options. It's bad writing.
It's just amazing to me that you know what'll really rope them back in? Let's kill Carl. He's a character nobody likes. Nobody's ever liked. He's a little fucking annoying kid. I mean, you introduce the character as a pest who kind of like grew up and became more mature. And now he's just fucking annoying because he's like, now he's just Mr. Oh, he's so good. He's just inherently good. You know what I mean? There's nothing fucking interesting about that. I'm sorry. And good. Yeah. I'm glad he's dead. And I'm sure most of the fans of the show fucking were happy as shit that he died.
But that'd be like if Game of Thrones was like, yeah, we're just gonna... Actually, I can't even think of a character that you could kill in there that would have the same effect.
Well, that doesn't matter? Or...
That doesn't matter, or that people would be happy, but not happy because they find him annoying.
No. People are happy that Joffrey died, but that's because of how fucking awesome he was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People love the fact that... what's his name? The Ramsay Bolton.
Right.
Okay. piece of shit. Fucking, he needs to die. They need to kill him in the worst way. He's awful.
Yeah,
but there's a hole in the show when they're gone.
And it's
you know
also
what I'm saying?
Well, and it's also the fact that they were written so well that the reason that you want them to die and the reason that you're happy they die is because the show has
made you hate them. And you're supposed to hate them, right?
Yes.
Right. No, that's not Carl. Carl, you're not supposed to hate. You're supposed to be like, oh, this is so sad. Like, they are the whole episode thinks that you're sad. You're watching it and you're like, this is supposed to be sad. This is an hour and nothing is sad for that long. Nothing. Unless you're my girlfriend watching This Is Us.
Everybody keeps on telling me, watch This Is Us.
It's really good.
And I'm like, really
it's very manipulative.
Right.
And it's cheesy as hell, but it's really good.
You know,
you don't want to cry weekly?
I just don't want to be a crier guy, you know?
You will be.
It's not a good look.
But yeah, I mean, I don't. The show is dead to me. But how many hours of my life have I sank into it? I'm not stopping now. So if we do this more often, I'm sure every week I'll have something to bitch about.
Though that's fine. We'll just do Walking Dead corner bullshit. I don't know.
Oh, it's so bad, Alex.
We'll just call it like the rotting corpse corner or something. They had
Frank Darabont, and if people don't know who that is, he was the director of The Shawshank Redemption. He might have written the screenplay as well.
Right.
They had him for the first season, and the first season is, I mean, it was amazing. It was oh my god, a zombie show in the with the feeling of like the old George Romero zombies, and you're gonna turn this into a TV series. Sign me up.
Right.
And it's had its moments since then where it's been okay. I thought the second season was quite awful.
I heard that they brought in like a new director for like the last few seasons, and that has really, or maybe a new showrunner.
I don't know, but it's been bad since season one. It's just, there was just enough in there to make you keep watching.
Well, it kind of makes you wonder. I mean, I'm not saying that there's something inherently wrong with doing a TV series about zombies, because I don't think there is, but it is kind of, it's limiting. And when you're, what season are we on now? 8? 7?
8.
You go for 8. You go through 8 seasons of a show where it's just moved to a different area and there's more zombies and more assholes.
Well, the zombies now are, for the most part, that's why Carl's a dumb fuck, because you should not get bitten by a zombie. That's done on the show. If a zombie bites you, you're a fucking idiot at this point.
Really? Are there not that many of them?
No, there's a ton of them, but they're all, and everybody's kind of figured out how to deal with them. You know, I mean, there's been all these episodes where they like come up with some dumb shit, and then they'll cover themselves in guts and shit, and then they can walk amongst them because they don't know they're not zombies.
No.
Right. Well, okay, that's fine.
The second that you introduce something like that, though,
it breaks the show.
The threat is lessened because now you have that as a get out of jail free card.
So there's that. Okay, now here's where I find it interesting is, why do you keep doing like random like gangs of people that are the threat? Why don't you try like, okay, whoa, we ran into this new fucking super zombie or something.
Yes. That's how you expand the lore and you expand the mythology.
And it could be stupid. It could be stupid, but it's something.
Well,
you know,
that's what I'm saying is like, to me, there's like an inherent problem in if you're just running away from zombies all the time and there are assholes all the time, it's the same situation over and over again. And that's just inherently boring. With
the same message and the terrible like screenplays for everyone. I mean, that episode last night was fucking terrible. I was embarrassed for them because you watching it, they think they're making this like touching,
right,
like goodbye to a character, and I got to imagine 20% of people might have been touched by this episode. The rest of us all thought it was terrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, the buzz on it today that I saw on social media, Twitter, and everything. I mean, it's pretty much being panned. Yeah, it's
I love it. I like when there's actually like just consensus
that it's terrible.
that it's
Right.
terrible.
Yeah, because then you don't have to be that guy who's just being the prick who
Right,
doesn't like
right.
something everybody else likes.
Well, you're sitting there and you're like, is there something wrong with me?
Right.
Do I suck the joy out of everything like Rocket says? You just,
Which you
like-
do.
I mean, yeah, I do.
I mean, that's fine.
But hey, when something's good, I can fucking point to why it's good.
Right.
And I can shove it down people's face and be like, no, it's well thought out and it's well made, and film is an art form, and there are ways that we can measure if your screenwriting sucks. If you say, you just don't get it, do you?
Oh, that's the worst.
That's
like
maybe one of the worst lines, and overused.
there was a lot of that after The Last Jedi, in my opinion, out there, of the people who liked it. Which it isn't bad. It's not
No.
one of these piece of shit movies
No.
like what you're talking about, but there's this like arrogance when people like something. And I'm guilty of it.
Right.
Because like I really liked Dunkirk. And I know a lot of people just thought that, I mean, there's not a movie here. It's just a big like filmmaking, session for Christopher Nolan.
It's just 2 hours of me getting assaulted in the ears.
Right. Okay. So there's to me, I thought it was great.
It's fine.
I thought it was great. I would much rather watch that than Hacksaw Ridge, which I brought up earlier.
Right.
And I'm kind of arrogant about that. Well, I'm sorry, Alex. You just don't like good things.
Right.
You don't get why it was so good.
Right.
I mean, the mise en scène in that movie was just,
I tell you, that's like one of my least favorite things with Batman v Superman is the fans for that movie. Oh my! You just didn't get it. It was no, it was sloppily put together.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's a hodgepodge. It's horrible.
It's bad.
It's one of I don't know, maybe 3 times in the theater that I can actually remember being mad at what I was watching.
I wasn't mad.
I was very mad. I
didn't like
then.
the fact that they screwed with. They brought in Doomsday and all that stuff.
That was
that's
really
another.
dumb.
I mean, that's not a filmmaking problem. That's just a fucking decision that's stupid.
That's an entire podcast episode right there. Just Batman v Superman. We'll just shit. Well, I'll shit all over it, and you can somewhat
try
defend
and
it.
come up with redeeming quality. Well, that's
Yeah.
one of those movies where it's kind of pretty. I mean, it's ugly as shit, but it's got that ugly aesthetic that I find pleasing.
Right.
Where every time I've seen it since, it's lost a little bit of its luster.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make much sense.
Well,
it's not worse than Justice League, in my opinion, but I know a lot
just-
of people think Justice League was probably a little bit better.
I think I just have a serious problem with Zack Snyder fans. Because they tend to be some of the most pompous people I've ever met.
The fact that there's still people out there who think that 300 is like a great movie,
I loved it when it first came out.
I hated it.
I was floored. I was like, man, that zoom in and zoom out. I mean, it didn't touch me on an emotional level. It was like Transformers. I was like, that was just pure badassery. It was, like liberals will say, it's like toxic masculinity, the movie. But I was totally fine with it.
I thought it was
But
terrible.
then Sucker Punch came out.
Also terrible.
And I'm like, but you get people and they're like, it's a deep movie. No, it's not. It's fucking paper thin.
His best movie, most people haven't seen, Legend of the Guardians. It's about
Oh, the owls.
It's his best movie.
That's what I've heard.
I mean, a lot of people don't like it. It didn't do well or anything. But
I still
as far
need
as
to s-
being a decent movie that's not just a fucking headache, it's pretty good.
I think even before I knew who Zack Snyder was, I knew that was one of his movies. Because I saw this in the trailer. They just go whoosh and their wings
Zack
spread. It's the Zack Snyder slow-mo.
Isn't that funny to think how quickly, when he did 300, he was the man.
Right.
This is going to be his, oh my God, have you ever seen anything like this?
Yep.
I think we all saw Sin City. Was that before 300? But
I think so. Yeah, it was.
So,
It was.
okay, to me, it was nothing new. I didn't really appreciate Sin City the way a lot of people did.
I thought it was really good the first time I saw it. It's lost luster. It doesn't have the rewatchability.
Maybe that's just not my, I don't know.
Maybe you just don't like Frank Miller, like the writer.
I like his like, didn't he write The Dark Knight Returns?
He did, but he also wrote Sin City and he wrote 300.
See, I never read either of those.
And yeah. I mean, he's definitely an acquired taste though, because I feel like Sin City is much closer to how The Dark Knight Returns sort of feels.
We could have a chance at getting a Dark Knight Returns that looked like that. Only Batman vs Superman did it already and ruined it.
And it's gone.
Right.
Forever. Like, that's something I can't forgive.
So is the death of Superman.
That's probably more egregious. Because we sort of got The Dark Knight Returns a little bit with Dark Knight Rises. There were aspects of it.
Yeah, but not the
way that people would want, but I mean,
to me, they got the suit right, but all you did was copy what was in the book. So
right.
Really mean anything.
Well, they made Bruce Wayne a fucking idiot.
Moving
yeah,
forward.
So we're gonna sign off. I'm Alex. We didn't even sign in. We didn't even say our names. I'm Alex from Home at the Movies.
And Jackson, I will be annoyed today. You can be bored.
Yep, we're both. We're that.
Oh, we didn't start bored and annoyed, but then I thought about The Walking Dead, and I got both.
So this was a success then.
Yeah.
We're both bored and annoyed now.
Go Lions.